Well, to continue the snow Christmas theme in July, we have Avalanche Sharks. Yeah, if the shark in the snow wasn't enough, now it's in the freaking avalanche. And you know what? I really don't know what to expect from this one, but Avalanche Sharks, yeah.
Glad they used Windows Movie Maker for these titles.
Avalanche Sharks takes place on a mountain in what I'm guessing is Colorado or some other snowy state, because it's spring break here and these people decided to go to a ski resort instead of, I don't know, like Miami or I don't know. Well, it's still really snowy here, and you could honestly convince me that it was just about any month with this kind of weather. Anyway, it starts with these two skiers going down the side of a mountain having a good time when all of a sudden these sharks manifest out of thin air and kill them. It turns out the sharks are evil spirits that have come to attack those who are on the mountain because they're from another planet or something. It's up to our cast then to figure out how to stop the avalanche sharks. The story in this movie is at its very best okay, and at its worst it's a blatant ripoff of Jaws, and it's just incoherent. The story really takes a long time to get going, the pacing in general is very slow, the characters aren't really given a whole lot of time to be fleshed out, but it feels like there's too much. The way the sharks show up is pretty stupid, and the ending leaves a lot to be desired. The ending in particular, I will say, is maybe the weakest part of the whole movie. Yeah, probably the weakest part of the whole movie. And is just all around stupid. It was stupid. The characters aren't all that great. Most of them are one-note, generic, and boring the way the plot progresses. Very predictable. I don't even know why it's called Avalanche Sharks, because there is an avalanche in the movie, but it's not until the very end of the movie it kills like one person and is there for like 30 seconds. I'm not exaggerating, the avalanche is a complete waste. This should have been called like Spirit Sharks. I guess the spirit of sharks is a little more interesting than the norm. It's definitely better than the snow shark. But all around the plot was not very good at all. Something that is definitely worth bringing up in this movie is just how horny everyone is. The amount of sexual innuendos that are present in this movie is out of control. Some of the characters are just creepy with their sexual references and how fast they roll up on these women. It is not okay. Every single character makes tons of sexual innuendos and is legit just mad horny. Definitely horny on main. And it was to a point that it was parody, really. It really was. But yeah, pretty stupid plot. So how about those spirit sharks? How are they in the movie? Well, they actually aren't horrible. They do move through the snow, and they actually use the snow in a few interesting ways, unlike the snow shark, and burrow around like gophers, which is, again, more than I can say about the snow shark. The sharks themselves look okay for 2014, not like great, but okay. They're passable. I'm content with them. The design of them is decent, and it's a bit different from the norm, which is definitely good, and they don't look too janky. Don't get me wrong, some of the animation is really stiff and honestly not that great, but for the most part it looks okay. The animation was not the best, but I'd say it was still, again, okay. When it comes to the kills, they're decent. There's nothing like amazing here, but there are some interesting ones, like some people getting killed in a hot tub, the shark going through the snow really fast, and then one character just getting completely mauled by the sharks like over and over to the point that it was funny. The kills were okay. They could have been better, but I think what was here was, again, passable. It was certainly better than anything the snow shark had. Now, when it comes to consistency, unfortunately, this is where the movie really falters, as it's just not very consistent with the sharks in the movie. Of course, at the beginning, they briefly, and I mean briefly, show up, then maybe a few times in the middle of the movie, and then a fair amount at the end. And while that is mostly standard practice for shark movies, I will say there was just not enough sharks in the first half of the movie. Everything is super quick, blink and you'll miss it kind of shark movie. It just isn't in enough of the first half, like at all, and it really messes with the pacing of the movie, and I found myself getting tired watching it. And I hadn't even had any alcohol. I watched this one sober, and I regret it. Of course, at the end, the shark shows up a little bit more, but I really was just kind of done by that point and thought the screen time was way too inconsistent, and overall it was just abysmal. It just wasn't very good. At least they look cool, right? I guess the last thing to mention is the acting, which was not awful in this movie, it was just very mediocre. And that was pretty much across the board for everybody. Nobody was really any better than anybody else, but nobody was really any worse, at least for the main characters. Everyone was just kind of there, and again, pretty mediocre. It seems like they attempted, which is fine for the shark scale, I guess, but nobody was memorable in any sense. A lot of the dialogue is just really corny, it just wasn't very good. The deliveries are very stilted in many moments, which is unfortunate. Some of it is way too reminiscent of Jaws, such as not wanting to close the ski resort even though a number of people have died due to a shark attack. So that's fine, right? You love Jaws, right? Like I mentioned earlier, everyone in the movie is ridiculously horny and ready to get laid, and it honestly led to a number of just really creepy scenes in this movie, like where I just felt borderline uncomfortable watching this creep try to get at these women. It was just not right. And this isn't even like a 2020 woke thing. No, even when this movie came out, this would be uncomfortable to watch. Like, this was not okay then. It's even worse now. The acting certainly could have been better, and I'll leave it at that. They even said retard at one point in this movie. Like, what movie says retard? This movie certainly could have been better. Well, I guess the premise isn't that bad. The execution, yeah, as usual, leaves a lot to be desired and is just all around not the best. The sharks look okay, the kills are okay at best, but are barely on screen, the acting is too horny for its own good, and the story moves at a really slow pace. Like, if I could knock the movie on one thing, it would definitely be the pacing, as this movie just moves way too slow. There's a lot of exposition that really means nothing, way too much horny dialogue, and by the end of the movie, everything just wraps up in like less than 2 minutes. The pacing is just really wrong, inconsistent, slow, boring. It's not as slow as Snow Shark in this movie. I mean, this movie's better than Snow Shark. I can say that. As its only main competition of Snow Shark, it's definitely better than that. But, I mean, just about every other movie is better than Snow Sharks. So, yeah. This movie just moved in an agonizingly slow pace. The movie was not absolutely awful or a complete train wreck. It just wasn't much better than that. That's why on the shark scale, I think this movie gets a solid 2 out of 5 and gets the rating of meh. This movie isn't very good. It's not the worst shark movie you'll see, but it's far from one of the best. It seems the sharks in Snow just don't really lead to an interesting movie. Or at least a very good one, which is just unfortunate. Maybe the next movie will be better. Regardless, if you liked the video, you guys already know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, the typical stuff. What shark movies you want me to look at, you tell me in the comments. Have a good one.